Hi everybody, I am Debbie Reynolds with Rocky Mountain Lodge. Today I'm super excited to show you how to make creamy risotto. It's so delicious, one of those wonderful appetizers we'll get at a restaurant but might not make it home because it seems so intimidating. But I'm going to tell you some of the tips and tricks about it. But the biggest thing is you have to just have patience because it just takes time for it to cook in different steps, in different increments. And I'll show you about that. It's not hard, it just takes time. And you can find this recipe on our website at rockymountainlodge.com on our recipes tab. And you can also get 500 other recipes in our cookbook, Rocky Mountain Lodge and Cabin's More Favorite Recipes. This is version 2 of our cookbook. Version 1 is sold out. This you can get at our website by clicking on the gift shop tab. And right now we're running a special for half price. So you can get this cookbook for $10. And it even comes with an ebook version, which is great. All right, so I'll tell you about that again later. So right now what we're going to do is I kind of have one batch already started just to save some time for later. And so we'll go over that later. But right now, the first thing that we're going to do is I'll tell you some of the ingredients that we have going. We are going to need 4 cups of chicken broth, which I actually have about, I think 6 cups in here right now because I've got 2 batches going. And you want to warm up your chicken broth and you want it to keep warm. Keep it warm while we're making this whole dish. And then you want to, if you want it vegetarian, just use vegetable broth instead of chicken broth and then you'll have a vegetarian meal. So I have my pan heated right here and we're just going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil. The recipe on my website serves 8, so that's double what I'm doing today. I'm making a couple of smaller batches that are going to serve 4. So I've got that olive oil heated up right now. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to tell you everything for a half batch today. This is a half of a small onion, finely chopped up, that we're going to saute in this olive oil. Let me get this all out of here. We're just going to cook this in this oil until the till the onions are tender and translucent. And so while these are cooking, I'll tell you about some of our other ingredients that we have. We are also going to need 1 shallot finely diced, 1 clove of garlic minced. We are going to need 2 sprigs of thyme. I just grabbed some of these from my thyme pot. I have fresh herbs growing in my pots, which I like. You can strip these if you want. I just don't like to take the hassle of doing that with this dish. And later on, the thyme leaves will actually come off by themselves, and you can just pluck out the stems. And then you're going to need a 1/4 cup of dry white wine. And we will need 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms. 1 cup of arborio rice, and I'll tell you a little bit about this rice. This is arborio rice. It's just a little bit different type of a grain, but it's a more starchy rice, and so it will absorb the liquids better. And so I'm going to go ahead and keep stirring this. This is what we're going to get to later on in the process, but right now we're just cooking these onions down, and they look like they're getting pretty close. So I'll tell you the rest of our ingredients while we're doing that. We'll need some salt and pepper, and then you'll need a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, packed tightly, and then just a sprig of parsley to sprinkle on top for garnish. All right, so these onions look like they're cooking down pretty good. So now to those onions, we are going to add our mushrooms, our sliced mushrooms. 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms we're just going to put in there. These are mini baby portobello mushrooms. You can use any type of mushrooms really. And we're also going to add our shallots, which if you don't know what shallots are, they are kind of in the garlic family. I'm sorry, not garlic, they're in the onion family, but they also have a bit more flavor to them. And we're also going to need a tablespoon of butter. I forgot my tablespoon of butter. I'll be right back. All right, let me get a tablespoon of butter here quickly. And I'm going to cut this in half. We just need half of it at a time. So I actually should have put that butter in here first and let that melt. So we need, this is a half a tablespoon of butter because we use 1 tablespoon and it's going to be divided. So we want that butter to melt, and we're going to cook our mushrooms, our shallots, and our garlic together right now, along with the thyme sprigs. We're just going to put those in there. And we're just going to cook this for about 4 to 5 more minutes until these mushrooms are wilted down. And when this is done cooking, it will look like this right here. You can see that right there. Okay, so we're going to cook this. And so what I've got going on here is our rice. And we cook this rice in different amounts at a time. So while we do this, we're going to get to the rice after that's done. We'll start the rice. But what we're going to do is we're going to add our chicken broth mixture to our rice after we've prepped our rice, which I haven't prepped it yet. So I'll show you how we prep it when these are done. And so we're going to cook this down until the liquid is almost all absorbed. You want to only add about a cup of liquid at a time until it's absorbed. And that's where the patience comes in. 1 cup at a time until that's absorbed. It takes about 5 minutes, and you're going to go through that. It takes 4 cups, so it's going to take about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, which is why I've already started this ahead of time. I think I've added 2 cups of rice to that right now, so it's halfway done. And so once that's done, but that's what's going to make it so creamy. If you add it all at once, it won't be so creamy. All right, so these just need a couple more minutes to go. So while these are all cooking, I'm going to tell you about what we're going to be making next week. Next week, we are going to be making a special recipe to me. It's my cream bananas and puff pastry shells recipe. And if you could see Alyssa's eyes right now, they just got really big. She's super excited about that one. But this recipe is special because I had a bed and breakfast in for almost 18 years. And when we first started out, in order to join the Colorado Association of Bed and Breakfast Innkeepers, I had to have an inspection. It was a 190-point inspection. There was an overnight stay involved. And when I was making my 3-course breakfast, which is what I made every morning with a dessert for breakfast, the 3rd course flopped. I don't even remember what it was that I was making at the time, but it flopped. And so I had to hurry up in a panic, think of something else that I can make really quickly. And so I created this recipe. And so if you go to my recipes tab, at the very top, my header picture is the cream bananas and puff pastry picture. I actually entered it into a Pepperidge Farm puff pastry contest, and it won first prize. And so that was pretty exciting. So I'm going to show you how to do that next week. And so don't forget to tune in next Wednesday, April 21st, I believe it is. Wednesday the 21st. I think so. Yeah, at 2 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, I'll be making those cream bananas. So I just wanted to tell you about that while I was stalling a little bit. So you can see that this moisture has been absorbed. So now we're going to add another cup of our chicken broth to this mixture, and we're going to do the same thing. Just let it cook down slowly here. And I have my heat kind of on a medium setting here, so it's just kind of simmering away. And these mushrooms are pretty much done. So I am going to just pull these out of the pan right now, and we're going to move on to prepping the rice. Actually, before I do that, we want to season them a little bit with some salt and pepper. And so I'm just going to put a pinch of salt on there. And a pinch of pepper. Give it a little stir. And we'll set this aside. I'm going to get a pan here, another bowl rather. Turn that off. And I'll pour these into this bowl and then just set them aside while I cook the rice for this batch. And since I have 2 batches, there are 11 people in the family next door, and so I'm going to give them both of these batches for dinner tonight. But this comes out so creamy. I know these guys next door eat a lot of rice. They eat rice and beans sometimes. So my daughter likes to teach them about mission stuff, and so she'll cook foods for them for what kids might eat in other countries. Actually, I got that wrong, so I want to take this out. Ouch, that was hot. And just move this over, and then we'll use that later. And now we are going to take the rest of our butter. Where did I put that? It's over here. So the other half a tablespoon of butter, now we're going to put that in here, and we're going to get that melted. Stir this here a little bit again. Each time we stir this, it will get creamier and creamier. And so the liquid won't be so wet. It won't be so watery like this. The starch from the rice will be absorbed into the liquid, and the liquid will be absorbed into the rice, I should say, the other way around. And it will become thicker and thicker. And by the time we get our last one in there, which I think we have one more addition after this, it'll be nice and creamy. And then we'll add our Parmesan cheese to it and the vegetables back. Okay, so we got this butter about melted. And now we're going to add our rice to the butter. And we are going to toast our rice in here for just a couple of minutes until the rice is a little bit browned and smells kind of nutty. It just brings out the nuttiness in the rice. When Alyssa first came over today, I had the rice over here at this stage, and she asked if I was making fried rice. Which fried rice is pretty yummy, but you actually fry your rice after it's already been cooked for fried rice. And then you add some vegetables and noodles to it and whatever other things you're going to add. So we're just going to let that cook down for a few more minutes. So you can see how this is getting creamier. It's not so wet as the first time around or second time around. Each addition becomes more creamy. And we want to cook this until the rice is al dente. You just don't want your rice crunchy. So we'll just keep cooking that down. And I have it on just like a medium heat, simmering away. So trying to only do 2 batches at a time, not 4 batches like we did with the sourdough rolls, because that was a little bit of a fiasco. Okay. So we're just cooking this just a little bit until the rice gets toasty and buttery. Okay. Then once that is done cooking, we are going to add, we can use just another minute here. Some of them are starting to brown a little bit, but I want them to brown just a little bit more. There's little specks of mushrooms and onions in here, and that's totally fine. Don't worry about that. Give this a little stir. So normally when I'm making this, I just kind of walk away for a couple of minutes and then come back every couple of minutes and give it a little stir. I made this last week, and I made some cod fillets to go with it, so I was working on the cod while this was cooking. All right, so I think that's looking good. It's getting a little toasty there. And so now I'm going to add our 1/4 cup of wine into here. That's just going to give it some flavor. The wine will boil out, but you'll have the flavor from it. Then this is where the broth comes in. So you can see the wine has been absorbed. And now I'm going to bring this pot over here so I don't make a big mess. And this is where you start adding your broth. About 1 cup at a time. And you just keep cooking it until it becomes thickened. This process takes anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes to cook down. But you can see the difference between the 2 rices. This, you can see the liquid here is really watery. And this one you can see is creamy. It's becoming more and more creamy. And so I have one more addition to do in this one. Just give it another minute here to do this. And then that one, I'm going to turn that pan down just a little bit. We'll go through the same steps as what we've done here. Okay, and then this one, let me go ahead and add the last cup of liquid to this one. I think I'm going to need some more broth for this one. Because I don't think I have, well, I might have 3 cups in there left. So, All right, so this is our last round. We'll wait till this gets absorbed. Just a few more minutes. So, does anybody have any questions about anything that we've made so far? Any other types of foods that you want to see me make in the future? Go ahead and plug them in now, or if you're not watching this live, just enter them in the comments section. Make sure to like this video, share this video, and visit our website at RockyMountainLodge.com. Click on the recipes tab for the recipe for this, and then you can also purchase our cookbook by clicking on the gift shop tab, and it's half off right now. This also comes with an ebook version, so you can download it onto your phone, your tablet, your computer. I love that for when I'm out and about in the grocery store or whatever, and I want to make something and I've forgotten what I need to make for a recipe. I can just look it up on my phone, so it's quite convenient. Okay, so just a couple more minutes. So as I said before, patience, patience, patience with this risotto. And this is where the patience comes in. If you just added all your broth at once, it's not going to come out so creamy. It'll come out more clump-like when you cook, like mochi rice. Starchy, just one big clump. Clumpy rice. So, but we want it nice and creamy. That's what makes the risotto so good. You can also make risotto, and if you don't want to do mushrooms, you can just do this all by itself, just plain. You can also add some cooked shrimp to this. That's pretty yummy. You can add scallops. You can add lobster. There is no end to what you can add to here. I actually like peas in mine, but I don't put peas. You can add just some frozen peas. Once this is all done and we add the mushrooms back in, that's when you would add your peas. My husband doesn't like peas, so I tend to skip the peas. That's a whole nother story in itself. Alyssa, have you heard the story about Pa and peas when he was 4? You're going to have to ask Pa about the pea story when he was 4. We have a picture of him crying on his birthday. Well, I guess I can tell you. I'll tell you all. My husband, when he was 4 years old, he didn't like peas. And so on his 4th birthday, his uncle hid a pea in his vanilla ice cream. And so when he scooped it up and saw the pea, he just started crying. And so we have a picture of him on his 4th birthday just shedding streams of tears because there was a pea in his ice cream. But yeah, so you can see the difference here between the two. It just becomes a bit more creamy here. And so this just needs another couple minutes to finish absorbing this liquid, and then we'll add the mushrooms back in. And I was telling you about these stems here. The leaves pretty much all come off of it, and then you can just pull out the stems. Some of them might still be on there, and that's all right, but you've got the flavor in there, and that's what you want. So those are all done. I do it that way because that takes a whole less amount of time than trying to pull them all off, which there are ways to just pull them all off, but this is even faster and easier, so I do it this way. All right. Wash my hands there. Okay. So, patience, patience, patience. Okay, and Alyssa, if anybody's asked any questions, just feel free to shout them all out there. But you do want to make sure, 2 big things you want to do when you're making risotto is you want to make sure you use the starchy rice. This arborio rice is one of the best ones for risotto. And then you want to just cook it slowly. Slowly. I mean, even regular rice takes a long time to cook. But with regular rice, I'll just cover it up and walk away and forget about it until it's done. But this one, you have to tend to it every few minutes. I would just come by and stir it. But you can see how creamy it's getting. And I'm going to grab some more broth for this one since I think I used a little bit more for this one. But you just don't want your rice to be crunchy, and you don't want it to be mushy. So that's where you go for that al dente flavor. One of the ways you can tell is if your rice still has some little bits of white in the middle, like some of these might have. Let me see if I can find some. This one right here has a little bit of white in the middle. That probably is not quite done yet. But most of them look like they're getting pretty darn close to being done. So we're just going to let that absorb for a couple more minutes. Stir this one. That looks like it's starting to get absorbed. And so in another minute or so, we'll be adding some more liquid to that pan. So I know I was talking to somebody the other day that they were making risotto as well. The same day I made risotto. It's a small world, but I love risotto. I also have one recipe in my cookbook for a champagne and feta risotto. And so that recipe, it's not online, but it's in my cookbook for my champagne and feta risotto. So instead of white wine, you're going to use champagne. And instead of Parmesan cheese, you're going to use feta cheese. Just gives a little twist on the flavor. And there's not mushrooms in it. So you can check that one out too. And if you don't want wine, you can also just substitute chicken broth. More chicken broth. Okay. I know I tend to try to rush things when I do these videos, and I'll pull things off just a little bit ahead of time like I did with my Eggs Benedict sauce. It literally just needed a couple more minutes to cook. And so I'm not going to make that same mistake with this one. You're just going to have to be patient with me and bear with me and come back next Wednesday when I make one of my signature recipes that I serve at the B&B. Alyssa's all excited about that one. There'll be plenty for you and your family. And if you come video, you'll definitely get some too. All right, so this is, I know I keep saying it's almost there, but it really is almost there. I just want that to get absorbed a little more. Okay, now I'm going to add some more broth into this one. Then I need to heat up a little bit more broth because I probably did not heat up quite enough. So I'll heat up some more for this one here. Okay. So now you can see all the different steps and phases. I'm going to go grab just a little bit more chicken broth to put in here for this one. And by the time I'm done with that, this will probably be ready for us to pull out and try. Or finish up. All right, and then remember, if you want it's vegetarian, just instead of using chicken broth, and use low sodium chicken broth. That's another thing too. So I'm just going to add a little bit more in there. I think that might do it. Of chicken broth and get that warmed up. Okay. And so now this is almost all absorbed, so I think that's perfect. It looks al dente. Okay, so now we're just going to add, that's a little hot from sitting over the heat. So I'm going to add the rest of our mushroom mixture back in. Okay. And now we're going to go back over here. Over here. Alyssa's going to follow me over here while we finish this up. Okay, so we're going to mix this back in, mix back in our mushrooms. It smells good. Can you smell it, Alyssa?
It does smell good.
All right, so there's our mushrooms, and now we're going to add our Parmesan cheese, which I did a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, but this is freshly grated Parmesan, so it's kind of fluffier. When I made my fettuccine Alfredo, I didn't pack it down, so I needed a lot more than what I actually made, because you need to pack it down. Okay, so get this all in here. Get all that Parmesan in there. And then you can smell that Parmesan cheese as it's melting in there. Smells good?
It does.
All right, and then all we need to do now is plate it. There's another little thyme leaf. Plate it in our pan here, our bowl. So this will serve 4 people as a side dish. If you want this as a main entree, it'll probably serve 2 to 3. Okay, so now we have our mushroom risotto here, and then all you have to do is garnish it with a little bit of fresh parsley, which I have growing in my pots. I love growing fresh herbs. All right, and now you're ready to eat your mushroom risotto. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me, and I'll see you back here next Wednesday, April 21st at 2:00 p.m. Mountain Time, and we'll be making my signature creamed bananas and puff pastry shells. See you all next week, and thanks for joining everybody.